I don't have a solution.
No. So you say, so here's what Barcelona did during the virus.
Okay.
They used, I presume, whatever eminent domain powers they have. They took a large selection of apartments, probably a couple thousand, and they said they will reimburse the developer that owns the building 50% of the market rate for the rent. They just took the building and they opened it up and they housed people.
So have you brought this solution to, have you proposed this to anybody but some dumb fireman? I mean,
so,
come on, you can't get much lower than me.
So that's the thing is, nobody's listening, and you try getting closer to a politician. The entire government, local government especially in Denver, they are all bought and paid for by the real estate developers.
Okay.
Hancock's campaigns, his political campaigns, are funded by real estate developers, and Polis is a commercial real estate landlord. Okay. And so they will never act against the interests of that class.
So are you giving up before you start, or?
No, my solution is come out here and voice this and protest. But there was a massive protest at one of Hancock's COVID-19 briefings. Okay. They confronted him about the sweeps, demanded action. His response was not to do something with the, and that idea was certainly, he's aware of that idea, was not to, by eminent domain, grab some empty apartment buildings. His solution was to try and designate a camping area. Okay. That was probably at least 4 months ago now. Okay. And he's done nothing. Okay. They had a proposal, then they ignored it. They're trying to put the campsite in one specific location in Denver, and they're trying to put it in Candy Cedar Barker's district, because she's the one that's been voicing most about the injustice here. And they said, okay, you can deal with the problem then. That's Hancock's response right now. But the reality is he just doesn't give a shit, because he's not out here. His chief of staff is out here, which is perplexing, but he doesn't care. Well, who are you going to speak to?
Does a lot of work, even.
He's been standing around for sure.
Well, he's been, but he does a lot more than I do. I do a lot of standing around.
But they don't care. When you talk about raising this issue to people that matter, they don't care.
So there's a book out there, and I'm reading it right now, and they talk about, human beings have a limited capacity for attention span. So, and basically what the gist of it is instead of trying to go straight to the solution because it gets overwhelming, you set mile markers and break it up into chunks. So this is our ultimate overarching goal, and it's got to be something that's inspiring but easily communicated. And then once you get that kind of that slogan and that goal, and then it's easier to excite people about it, get people on board, instead of this overwhelming, hey, we're gonna, remember George Bush's, or the to end poverty, or the end homelessness, and it just got so overwhelming nobody wanted to do it. The people lost, enthusiasm. So if you were to, instead of say let's take care of it this way, you have an ultimate goal of getting to that point, but you have these way markers that you get to. So first of all, gin up some enthusiasm amongst the business community. How it's going to make the business community better if everybody's in a home, and it makes them, now they're invested. Okay.
So
instead of attacking directly.
That is an old capitalist ploy of how do you get the business community on board.
So instead of getting a lot of people together, you're just gonna protest your way to the solution?
No, but when you say get a lot of people together, the idea of putting homeless people into housing is a massively popular position. It's not kind of a questionable position. So the only people, and you are talking, when you talk about business interests, you are talking about a minority of collective capitalist people who amass the resources of society, such as housing. The idea that you need to win them over is inherently corruptible to the goal, because they're never going to have interests aligned with yours. They don't want people out here, but even the way the tax system is set out with depreciating commercial property is that they have more incentive to have empty units than they have in dropping the rent to get them filled.
I think your failure right now, and this is just me talking, I'm not trying to be mean or anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that you're caught up in dogma, and your failure is due to a lack of vision. So I think you need to be a more imaginative to come up with a solution, because you're getting bogged down in
hold on, but
social
you just
and political things and less
social
about human nature.
I mean, this is a social thing.
That's what I'm saying.
The idea of getting caught up in dogma while also advocating for the interests of the capitalist class doesn't quite make sense to me, because
and that's exactly what I mean. You're caught up in this wheel here, and your failure is you're in the box. You got to get you've got to start thinking outside the box, and thinking and get more collaboration. So it's more than just about you, it's about everybody. And so you have this view that's just you, and it's not very inclusive, so nobody else wants to join you. So your failure is a failure of imagination, and that's just my uneducated standing outside.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, because
Sorry.
the point is that you're advocating, it's kind of saying, oh, how do we find a middle ground between people who need insurance and people who own insurance companies? It's kind of one person versus 1,000, and you're saying, how do we find a middle ground? We don't need a middle ground. Okay. You advocate what's in the interest of the majority of the people, and the business interests are not a priority here. The interests of society and the health of society is a priority. Whatever the solution that is in the best interest of society is the one that should be advocated for. Whether that means taking a building off of a multi-billion-dollar real estate development company, then that's what we need to do. Okay. Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion. It costs $20 billion to end homelessness overnight in the US. So why can't we implement a 10% wealth tax?
You're on a good streak, and then you went back to 1%.
Because the interests of Jeff Bezos are relevant.
You were doing good, but then you settled back into the finding a bad guy. So instead of looking for the evil bad person,
but taking a
find all the
property,
good people,
but taking
together.
An apartment building off of a multi-billion-dollar real estate development company is okay, as long as I don't put a human at the top of that pyramid.
I'm talking coming up with solutions. So if you want to, let's say we want to turn this Wendy's into an apartment building. Why?
That apartment building is half empty. So this building here is probably going to be majority empty.
If you want to bring all the homeless people and give them a place to stay, you've got to bring people on board. You can't just make people do things. So I'm just giving you my opinion. You need a better, more imaginative way to achieve your goal.
What needs to be more imaginative about
just telling people that Jeff Bezos is bad?
So Jeff Bezos is bad, because when you amass that kind of wealth at the expense, his employees piss in bottles while they work in his factories, and they live in tents outside of his fulfillment centers because they can't afford rent, because he pays them so little.
So you get bogged down in that, and then now you're off and you've lost focus. So that's my opinion. And it's not, and I know it's not very
you're
good.
kind of.
What do you mean by bogged down? Like, how? I mean,
he's making an argument, but then he gets off track about something else where we're talking about homelessness.
I guess it might seem off track, but the thing is that it is a big problem. It's a problem that when you discuss it, no matter what, your points are going to get bogged down by other points because they're relevant.
And that's why you got to get a good imaginative, and I call it slogan, but an idea that people can focus on and everybody can understand, and get behind. So you have a whole diverse group of people that are working for the same goal, and they're not getting caught up in, well, this is what I think is important. This is what, you can always refer back to your main mission statement.
I understand the sentiment, but the issue is that the solutions to these problems are they're not as complicated as they're made out
exactly.
to be. And so but because they've been made out to be complicated, there's like an illusion of complexity that the state deliberately enforces onto its people.
Yeah.
So coming up with,
and I think you're getting, it's in human nature. You have the logic side and the emotional side. And the logic side, like you were saying, gets bogged down in all the logistics. So it's important to find that way of that mission statement that both sides of your brain can understand and not get
I mean,
off target.
The pathos ethos or the pathos logos argument is
don't get too far over my head. I'm just a simple
sorry.
firefighter.
You said emotions and logic, pathos.
Don't
and
get
logos
too far over my head. I'm just saying you're gonna leave me here.
This is an educational moment. Logos is just Latin for logic, and pathos is just, or maybe not Latin, but no, Greek, that's right.
Okay.
Logos is just Greek for
believe
logic,
you either way.
and pathos is logic for emotion. So just like you're saying, there's the emotion and logic. And I do just want to point out that the emotion and logic is very outdated. That theory was formulated in like the early Greek eras with Aristotle and stuff like that. It's not really a valid argument for anything at this point.
I'm not arguing anything.
Well, I mean,
I just use some words.
But hold on a second. You're kind of weirdly advocating some sort of individual responsibility of creative solutions. I don't really understand how that loops into the current social problem. But let's boil it down to where we agree on, right? The homeless living in a tent on the street is not necessarily a solution. Some people want to do that, majority don't. There are 19,000 some odd empty housing units in the city alone. Can those two issues be matched up to develop a solution?
That's what I'm hoping you'll be able to figure out.